Welcome back to Elections Countdown Nigeria on Breakfast Central. Political campaigns have a significant impact on the outcome of elections and the overall political landscape. They provide a platform for candidates to communicate their message to the public, which helps to shape public opinion and influence voters. Now, through campaigns, candidates can educate voters about their policies, their goals, values, and highlight the issues that matter most to them. In Nigeria, for example, as elections draw closer, we have witnessed presidential candidates seeking the votes of citizens by campaigning in the north, south, east, west, and also using abusive attacks, speeches, and more. We've also seen the APC presidential candidates call a sitting governor his boy. He has also called the current president incapable due to the increase in fuel and hardships. We've seen a similar speech come from AAC presidential candidate Omoyele Sowore, PDP's Atiku Abubakar, just to mention a few. These back and forths have been the trick of the trade. Now, here is why elections campaigns are important. Let's take a look at this. Why exactly political campaigns? We have a breakdown of graphics to sort of help you see why campaigns are important, aside from the fact that they're helping people to, or candidates, to share with you what their manifesto is, what their plan is. It's also an opportunity for people to be able to hear what is in the offering. Now, these campaigns increase significant outcome of elections. It increases support and educates voters on policies, goals, values. Campaigns can snowball to become a force in gathering votes from the electorate. When not positive, negative campaigns can cause division and distract from the real issues at hand, which is, interestingly, is what we've seen in the past few weeks. There have been, of course, some negative campaigns, attacks, back and forth here and there. Well, joining us on Election Countdown Nigeria, our guest is a public affairs analyst. His name is Ezekiel Nya-Etok. Good morning and welcome to Breakfast Central.
Hi, good morning. It's my pleasure to be with you.
Thank you very much for joining us on Election Countdown Nigeria. Now, we're talking about elections, and we're seeing basically how these, are being influenced by campaigns. Let's do like an analysis, a general analysis of the campaigns that have happened so far in 2023. What are your thoughts on the campaigns that the presidential aspirants have done? Would you say that they've done a convincing enough job with their campaigns?
Yeah, one of the things you have said from the beginning is that this is about the most keenly contested campaigns or elections, in recent history. And that's a fact. But the problem is that we need to tie what's going on with the essence, the activities and the essence. What is campaign supposed to be? It's supposed to be a person that brings himself forward and says, I want to occupy this office. Then he goes ahead to tell you why he is or she is the most competent to handle the office by two documents. One, the vehicle, and two, the driver. What is the vehicle? His policies, what he wants to do. And what is the driver? His person in terms of his character, his understanding of issues, his capacity to handle it. So those two must marry very well, the vehicle and the driver. But what we have is rallies where you have all manner of paraphernalia, you have all manner of, people talking loud and saying nothing. So effectively, the essence of campaign is betrayed. And again, let me say something. Have you noticed that two main political parties never have activities in the same place, the same time? Not because of violence, no. Because one could be in the stadium, which is the government person, and the other one is not in the stadium, is in another place, which is what's really going on. So they don't usually use the same venue. But do you know why they will not do it? Because it's the same crowd that goes here, that is taken there. So Nigerians need to come to terms with the fact that the crowd that you see has nothing to do with the popularity of the person. It just has to do with the financial capacity to mobilize. That's the word, mobilize. You don't mobilize your supporters, you call your supporters and they come. It's organic. But when you have to pay for it, so we really need to, that's why sometimes you think somebody is very, very, very popular and then the person does not win election and say, oh, he was rigged. No, he wasn't rigged. They were following him for his money.
This is a very a very valid point that you've raised, Mr. Nyantok, because there have been conversations about how poverty has been weaponized by politicians and how what we see is a mixture of people. And if you look even closely, some of the people that are campaigning for PDP, maybe you will see them campaigning for the APC. So it then says, are they following these people because they believe in the message that is being passed, or because they are trying to sort out their stomach infrastructure? We'll continue this conversation in a moment. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be looking at the importance of rallies and exploring the conversation further to extend manifestos. This is Election Countdown Nigeria on Breakfast Central. Welcome back to Election Countdown Nigeria on Breakfast Central. Before we went on the break, we're speaking with Ezekiel Nyaetok, and we're talking about the importance or the role of campaigns and rallies in the election, even as we count down to the elections on the 25th of February 2023. Mr. Nyaetok, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Before we went on that break, we were talking about crowd for hire, and we're talking about the numbers and the rallies. But one of the interesting things would be the fact that there is a new concept, or the concept of paying people to come and show up, because there's a show of numbers. And it's not peculiar to Nigeria. We've seen it in the US. There are companies that are strategically positioned to rent crowds. There's crowd for hire, crowd for rent. And even a Kenyan author recently wrote a book about crowd for hire, how Kenyan politicians are hiring crowds for their numbers. Now, what we've seen in Nigeria is that there's a new trend, the trend of the 1 million person march. Everybody is trying to show power. Would you say that, how would you explain what has happened or what is happening? Seeing as it's not different from what is happening in a lot of other countries, but why is the one in Nigeria very peculiar to us? We talked about hunger being weaponized, and I'd like you to further expatiate on that.
Okay. Number one, because I'm doing a local run here, some people don't know that I'm contesting for the governorship of Akwa Ibom State. And I've looked at all these things. I think that Nigerians need to be enlightened on this issue of crowd, because on an election day with the beavers, there's going to be a lot of, I always say that every single person seeking the office of the president or the office of the governor, these two people in particular, they must have a doctor behind them on the day of election, because we're going to have an election style that has never been. The beavers is a game changer, because some of the people that you think are popular, they have money, they are renting crowd, and these crowds know that this is not the person's money. So they go to collect the money, they hold no allegiance whatsoever. And besides, they need the money. There's poverty in the land. People are hungry. And I can tell you this for a fact. So we tell them, go and collect. We encourage them, because you don't say don't go. But we let them know that this is not their money. On the day of election, do your mind. And people are ready for it. I'm telling you, the results, when they start to come out, some people are going to faint. That's why each person should have a doctor behind them, But really, I think that INEC has not helped us. I did an open letter to the INEC chairman once. You may allow maybe opening rally, mid-rally, closing rally. Just maximum of 3 rallies, maximum. The rest should be town hall, like I do town hall. Town hall. And then for the Gen Z generation, every day I do a 10-minute video, and it's going to where I need the votes. The crowds are not the vote. The crowds are just, look, I'm idle, I have nothing doing, and besides, I can get a little money for the people on the street. So they join. Look at what you've just seen there. It's humongous. Let me even tell you, did you see when Atiku, yes, it was Atiku, when he went to Kano in the last election? It was phenomenal. It was unbelievable. The crowd was like, the guy has won Kano already. When the election results came, the guy couldn't even make 20, he hardly made 25%. So what am I saying? Don't be deceived by the crowd. And to the generality of Nigerians, I want them to listen to what each person is saying. Let me end with a little illustration. I'll just take just a little time. There was this story that God said, want man to take one day and decide where to go, heaven or hell. So this guy went, and then he was allowed to go to any of them, but the rule was that once you knock the door, they'll bring you up. So he started by going to hell. And when he reached there, he didn't see the fire. Satan was looking as cool as could be. Everything was wonderful, the music, the jams, the good times, everything. And he came up. And then he said, let me go to heaven. He went to heaven, peaceful and everything. And then they asked him, where do you want to go? He looked at heaven. Heaven is peaceful, but it's too quiet. Hell was booming. He said, hell. They said, last resort. He said, hell. They said, okay, fine. They pressed the button. Before the door jammed, he felt the heat. And when he got there, Satan, everything was terrible. And he asked Satan, why people do this? He said, when you came, it was campaign period. We were campaigning then. Now is the real hell. So Nigerians need to draw a line between campaign period, the things you see, and the 4 years that is going to come after the campaign.
That's such an interesting analogy. In fact, I've heard some Nigerians say that every Nigerian deserves to go to heaven because living here, they've experienced a large extent of what it means to be like in hell, so they deserve to go to heaven for compensation. Let's still talk about the campaign rallies. From what you say and from what we've seen, crowds do not automatically translate to increased number in voters, increased number at the polls. We've seen presidential candidates of the Labour Party say to his followers, collect their money because it's your money, and after collecting their money, vote for me. That's what we hear some of them saying. However, there are people that are of the mindset, and when we're talking about like the low class, those who are at the bottom of the ladder, who are of the mindset that the generosity of a party or a potential president is largely determined by how open their hands are during campaign season, how freely they are ready to give. And that's a mindset that will be a huge stumbling block for us. How do we correct that mindset?
Yeah, I'll tell you. You see, I talk to my people that campaign period is a spin period. I'm going to play to my strength. I have enough money. I don't want the poor people to come and get me out. So what do I say? I throw money around and let you know that, look, okay, I'm generous. And you see, there's something about crowd as well that I must admit. It is that there are a lot of follow people in this country, a lot of follow. So by the time they see the large crowd, they think, oh, this is where people are going. So inadvertently, they tend to gravitate to where people are going. Now, this is where I blame the complicit elite class, you and I. Now, the politicians are awesome. They know the game. They know how to play the game. They know how to they understand emotional intelligence. But we that know the truth, because that emotional intelligence has brought the worst of us to rule over the best of us. And the result is that we've become the poverty capital of the world. And it affects your business. It affects my business. The time has come when you and I need to come and enlighten the people. I do town hall 4 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours, one-on-one. And people are like, wow, it's like 2 days back. One woman stood up and said, where have I been all my life? I never thought of it this way. And it's so simple and straightforward. Why are you not enlightening us? So I think, for instance, you need to understand that what you see has to do with who the man is, and who he is what he will be for 4 years of your life. So you've got to look beyond the noise, look beyond the sound, and look at the person, the quality, the integrity. This man gives. Has he been giving, or is he giving during election period? He's taking advantage of your vulnerability, and he's going to make you poorer so that next time he comes, he wouldn't need to give you as much, a little, and then you are good. So he's going to make sure that poverty is weaponized. You need to understand that. And people are like, wow, that's true. Where has this man been? I'm not hearing about him. I'm not been seeing him. A man like Tinubu has been there for a long time over the years, and he's been giving, and all those things. And the issue is, let's look beyond that and look at the demands of the office. A man like, I tell people, I just finished a program, from another station this morning. And in that program, I say that I feel so unhappy that, usually I talk on public space. I don't talk as a politician. I talk as a public commentator. So I don't try to project my party. I try to talk generally. So that has to be understood. But let's look at this. If not the problem that was there in my party, the African Democratic Party, ADC, which I really regret and I'm really unhappy about, we would have had 3 people that would have redefined the narratives. the party, the candidate, the presidential candidate of ADC, Mr. Kachiku, SDP, and Labour, they would have been like, say, the new kids on the block. They would have been the new conversation. The three of them would have, changed the narrative, the dynamics, because these people are saying things that people can relate to. The ADC candidate talks about, the Citizens Bill, where any man in public office has to enjoy what the citizens are enjoying. That's something that would have come up really good. The SDP candidate is also coming up with very brilliant sound bites. So this would have been the conversation. But because those three didn't come in forcefully as a group, you now find us talking about PDP, SDP, APC. These are conversations that bring nothing new to the table. I really hope that next time that we will have these new kids come in strong and redefine the narrative so that we start to talk in terms of essence of government and not the speaking loud and saying nothing, typified in what we call crowds and rallies.
Right, very important points you've highlighted there. It will be really a long walk for us to try to rebrand or rewire the minds of a country where we have about 133 million people that are multidimensionally poor, according to the statistics. So it's a lot of work that needs to be done. But let's talk about the campaign and the political parties. There are a number of political parties, but we seem to be hearing of the ruling party, which is the APC, the PDP, and the new kid on the block, which is the Labour Party, and it's to some extent the NNPP. Would you say that we're not the other political party presidential candidates? I mean, the good thing is that here on the election countdown, we shine the light on all political parties when we come to our segment, Know Your Candidate. We touch every political party, the presidential candidate, and what their manifesto is. But not a lot of Nigerians know these political parties. Is it a money problem, or is it just a lack of effort, or they're not doing enough as regards their campaigns? Because the truth is, Nigerians don't know a lot of these people that don't fall amongst the major parties that are in the news and campaigning and doing town hall meetings and gatherings and rallies every other day.
I'll tell you two things from personal experience. The first is that, I needed to come in forcefully for people to know that this guy is serious. So I took up some billboards in the city, in Uyo. One of the billboards was close to $1 million a month for one billboard. I took that billboard and it cost a stay in the city. By the second month, I wanted to go and pay for it. The owner said, sorry, sir, we can't accept your money anymore. I'm like, why? Say, because another person has come to pay and has paid over a long period of time and is paying well, very well. And we are business people. No, what am I saying? Now, these people will run you out of town. I mean, there are several billboards. They could have just left that one for me. I mean, for me to muster maybe 500,000 to $1 million every month for a particular billboard, they should have just left that. But go to anywhere, these guys are on your faces. How much millions can you take to have these impressive billboards? In Uyo, I don't know, in other places very cheap, but in Akwa Ibom, man, the money around is so much that you want to have, my crowds are organic. And let me even tell you something. That's why I say that people are in for shock. Now, I want to go for a consultation in, say, Oruganam or Mbo. These are local governments. So I go with a convoy of about 20 cars, and I get there, and I have an organic crowd of people that come in 500, all right? Organic 500 with my, maybe added to my, say, 30, okay? So I have 500 organic 30. The next day, another party comes, and then they bring 200 people from every local government. So they are coming with a crowd of about 3,000, okay? And from that place, the indigenes that are there are probably about 200. So you are seeing about over 3,000 people there, as opposed to my 500. But what you don't know is that in my 500, there are 500. In their 3,000, they are just 200. So effectively, I have a bigger, vote crowd than them. But they have a bigger campaign crowd than myself. So these are the things that people need to know, that there's a difference between vote crowd and campaign crowd. campaign crowd, a hired crowd. They are brought in from all the local governments. It is called mobilization. And what you need on the day of election is vote crowd, vote crowd. So I really think that Nigerians need to be enlightened on the difference between the two, so that you don't say, yeah, I thought that only he had 500 people. How could he win here? He must have rigged. No, he didn't rig. He had vote crowd. The other people had hired crowd. In these days of scarcity of fuel, do you know what it means for you to bring 5 buses from every local government? Some of them bring 10 buses from every local government. They are spending humongous amount of money. And I ask you, this amount of money that you are spending, how do you hope to get it back? Have you looked at the economy of the state? Have you looked at NNPC is no longer giving any money to the federation account, so to speak, because of the so-called subsidy, and that in the coming government, they will not have so much money coming from federation account, and that their internally generated revenue is next to nothing?
Right.
Where are you going to get the government?
Ms. Anyantok, we still have you here. Okay, we're having some technological challenges, but we're hoping that he'll join us back shortly. All right, Ms. Anyantok, are you still here with us? Okay, great. Welcome back. Thank you very much for joining us. Okay, so now you've been speaking about the role that money plays in elections, and it's a very interesting role. It might be a Herculean task for us to get to the point where people run based on their antecedents, based on their reputation, as opposed to the availability of resources that they have. Elections are actually expensive in Nigeria. But let's move the conversation away from money for a bit and come back to crowds. And the stadium is one of the places that people gather, presidential aspirants gather with their followers. Some paid for their followers to sort of pass across their message. Now, recently, we heard information that the Rivers State government had given permission to the presidential candidate of the PDP to come and hold his rally in the Adoki Amasiemeka Stadium in Port Harcourt, slated for the 11th of January. But there have been reports that on the 31st, another letter has been sent out, and the letter is withdrawing the consent earlier on given to Alhaji Atiku Abubakar to go and handle his campaign in that stadium. What are your thoughts on this? Would you think, now they've cited some reasons. Some of the reasons they've given would be that there are suspicions of violence that might occur, and they're trying to manage the situation to prevent things from going out of hand. Do you think that this is a reason enough, or do you think that this is just politics and power at play?
It's obviously politics and power. It's obviously, but then one has to be careful. You see, the politics of PDP in Rivers State is something that is extremely sensitive, and I would have expected that Alhaji Atiku of PDP should have known before now that that was a possible scenario and had a plan B. You know, Mr. Wike is a politician that takes no prisoners. And you've got to know that, you've got to understand that. So from day one, I think that they would have bent over backwards, whatever was needed to ensure that they didn't have a fight with Mr. Wike. Mr. Wike is a politician to the core, and he takes no prisoners. And if he's going to have to set you up to bring you down at the last day, I mean, so long as he can do that within the ambit of the law, he's going to do it. You know, this is not about morality as far as it's concerned. It's about politics. And politics is using whatever weapon in your arsenal you have to defeat your opponent, so long as such weapons are within the limits of the law. So I think that, number one, Mr. Atiku should have known that he was not going to use that place. He should have known that, unless he had reconciled substantially. And where such reconciliation was not possible, he should have just deleted Rivers State. Going to fight with Wike in Rivers State is wasting your resources where it is not necessary. Do your mathematics. Look at your SWOT analysis, your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, your threats. And within Rivers, you have two things. You have weakness and you have threats. Those are the two. Those WT, they are residents in Rivers State. So what you should have done is play down on Rivers State, and they have a lot of votes. Lagos has a lot of votes as well. Kano has a lot of votes as well. So you need to ask yourself, what would I do? What sort of understandings can I have who can I get in and be able to, get what you call constituency votes. There is a way that you profile and you don't make noise about it so that people don't know about it. You go and have certain, I don't know, they should call me as consultant. Let me tell them which is what I'm doing. Quietly here in Akwa Ibom. When the result comes out, I say it with every sense of responsibility, there will be shocks. Because, governance has to be cerebral. You have to be able to think outside the box and be able, how did I come from nowhere to be what they call the big five? Now they brought it down to the big three. How did I compare with no resources?
It's actually been a lot of drama going on in the political space, and we're going to keep unraveling a lot of these conversations as we count down to the elections. And all the best as you also go on ahead with your own race. We look forward to having you and maybe talking to you about your own journey. So thank you very much, Mr. Nyaitok, for joining us this morning.
I look forward to that. Thanks so much. Awesome work by KMs.
Thank you very much.